One of the first signs that will cross your path when you are elevating into a new timeline is that you will no longer resonate with certain activities or habits or even certain work things that you used to do in the past. So let me give you an example. When I had my spiritual awakening back in 2021, very soon afterwards, I started to feel a dissonance with regards to the work that I used to do. This is not because there was anything wrong with the work. In fact, the work was heartfelt, it was expansive, it helped so many people. But every time I was about to show up for running my usual masterclass that would lead into my retreat, I started to feel very, very sick. I was not able to easily release that feeling. And so I slowed down the activities until eventually I stopped them. So even though my mind said, "You're absolutely crazy, you are nuts, this is making really good money and it's helping a lot of people," I still was not able to do it anymore. I just simply was not able to do that particular masterclass anymore because it was firmly attached to an older timeline. This is the thing. I didn't know what my next timeline was, but I just needed to trust. And so attachments to old timelines, they show up as emotional resistance. For me, it showed up as my tummy feeling really unwell and feeling very, very sick. A feeling of heaviness, a feeling of this kind of anxiety going through your body. It no longer gives you the joy that it once gave you, and it doesn't make sense because it's now easier. You now have processes in place. You now are able to do that thing so much easier than you used to, but I just couldn't do it anymore. I knew that I had to let it go. When we feel this kind of resistance or this heaviness, or like me, that sick feeling in my tummy, I just knew that I needed to let that go. That served me well up to a certain point, but after that certain point, it was attached to an old timeline that would no longer serve me. And so if I wanted to stay stressed, if I wanted to stay tired, if I wanted to stay exhausted, I could stick to that timeline. But if I was prepared to jump into what the future had in store for me, I needed to let that timeline go. And so sometimes old timelines relate to relationships. So it could be old timelines relate to places. Like for me, I actually needed to switch cities, which nobody in my family has done. And yet I needed to do that to move away from that timeline. It was a brand new start. So I switched cities. So an old timeline can be attached to a location, to a place. It can be attached to a relationship. You might find that the friends that you've enjoyed, their company for so long, after a while, you just can't see them anymore because you feel drained after you spend time with them. You feel like they're taking your energy. And so you find that you need to just let them go. Whenever you feel like you are feeling heavy or tired or unwell every time you are in a place, in a relationship, or doing a particular work activity, that's your sign that no longer works for you anymore. That's something that you need to let go and trust that whatever is new will find you. You don't have to find the new before you let go of the old. That was something that I was taught a long time ago when I was in corporate. I was in corporate for 22 years and I had this firm belief that no matter how much I hated a particular job, I was never going to let it go until I found the new job. That's an old way of thinking. That's living in fear. That's not trusting in the universe. That's not knowing that you are taken care of no matter what. So you need to let go in order to align with the highest possible timeline. There is fear in releasing the old because you don't know, well, what's going to replace it? Am I going to be okay? But when you surrender these attachments, you make space for the new. You become more aligned to the new so that the new just arrives with ease and grace. It's all about trusting that there is something better waiting for you if you just trust. if you just know that it absolutely is there. That is very difficult. So I'm saying these words as if they're easy, but it's really, really hard to trust in the future when you can't see the future and you don't know how you're going to get there. I've stayed in that space for quite a number of years, and it's really difficult being in that surrendered space where you're just trusting that something better will arise. But what I have found is the reason that I was in that space for so many years was because I was still clinging on to some old activities, old ways of being, like this busyness and the work ethic and feeling like I need to be productive every single day. That is something I still struggle with so many years later. And so the more I cling on to the old way, the longer this period of surrender needs to go on for. The thing that we all need to remember is that your future self is already there. Your future self is already playing in the new part of the playground. All we need to do is align in to that future self by releasing what no longer resonates. Old commitments, old identities, old relationships, old ways of doing things. And this does not mean that all your relationships need to go just because they were in the old timeline. I still have friends from high school, and so we've been friends for over 40 years. I love being around them. They're very dear to me. You know when you're in a relationship that starts to feel heavy and starts to get you agitated and you just don't feel comfortable around that relationship anymore. Maybe you're walking on eggshells. You know when that's the case. We need to choose expansion over comfort. Every time, choose expansion over comfort. Know that your new timeline is already there. It's already set up. It's already waiting for you. But if you cling on to the belief that you need to see it straight away and you can't let go of the old until you see it, well, that's exactly what's going to keep you from seeing it. That's exactly what's going to keep you from being there. That's exactly what's going to keep you from getting closer and closer to your most expansive state. And so what my invitation to you is, notice how your body feels in certain circumstances, in certain locations, while you're doing certain things. If it feels heavy, if you feel a bit queasy, if you feel unwell, if you feel like you're in a weaker state, then perhaps that is attached to your old timeline and you need to let it go so that the new timeline has the opportunity to appear before you, even though it's uncomfortable, even though it's scary, and even though you don't know exactly what it looks like. So choose expansion over comfort every single time. If this video resonated with you, please like, please subscribe, please give me your thoughts down below. I'd like to hear your story and your situation. Sending you so much love, so much love.